Even though we're not quite at the stage where we can bring dinosaurs back to life, science is getting pretty close to doing just that. With modern technology, scientists have found ways to edit an animal's DNA to change its appearance and behavior. So, what if scientists were to combine forces with paleontologists and use all this knowledge to clone a dinosaur? Would it be possible? Could we even bring the mighty T-Rex back to life? In today's video, we're going to find out exactly how scientists could clone a dinosaur, and which extinct animals are actually the most likely candidates for being brought back to life in our lifetime. Let's get started. Scientists have made some great strides when it comes to cloning animals. It's been over 20 years since Dolly the sheep became the first mammal to be successfully cloned. And since then, many other animals such as cows, cats, and even dogs have been cloned by scientists. But there's one major difference between these recently cloned animals and dinosaurs. That is the fact that they all shared a common ancestor within the last few thousand years. Cloning really only works when dealing with species that are closely related and have a lot of genetic material in common. The further back in time you go and the more genetically distinct a species becomes, the less likely it is that we'll ever be able to clone them. And that's why bringing a dinosaur back to life would require a different approach. But even though bringing back a T-Rex might be beyond our current capabilities, that doesn't mean we can't bring other prehistoric creatures back to life. After all, humans themselves have been around for roughly 300,000 years. And yet we've managed to clone horses who died thousands of years ago. This means that if we can find enough of their preserved DNA, scientists should be able to clone animals that live much further back in time than horses did. So now the question isn't whether or not we could clone a dinosaur, but rather which dinosaur we could clone. To answer that question, let's take a look at the various types of dinosaurs that have already been discovered by scientists. The vast majority of dinosaurs that have been discovered so far are from the late Jurassic period, which was roughly 150 million years ago. However, there are also plenty of dinosaur fossils from other time periods, including the Triassic and Cretaceous. In fact, according to some estimates, there are around 980 different kinds of dinosaurs that have already been discovered, although many scientists believe that there could be up to 4,000 different types of dinosaurs that have yet to be discovered, and that's just focusing on the dinosaurs themselves. Don't forget, there were also tons of prehistoric creatures that lived alongside dinosaurs, such as woolly mammoths and saber-toothed cats. There were even creatures that didn't technically become extinct during the age of the dinosaurs, like sharks and crocodiles. So if you want to bring an extinct creature back to life, there are plenty of options. But even with all these options, scientists will need to carefully choose which creature they try to bring back to life. It is no easy task to edit the DNA of a long-extinct animal and bring it back to life. So it is important to make sure that you put in your efforts into bringing back the right animal. Scientists may consider a variety of factors when choosing which extinct animal to bring back to life. For example, they may want to choose an animal that is relatively small and easy to study. Woolly mammoth would be a good candidate because they are relatively small compared to other extinct creatures, and their DNA still relatively intact. Or they may want to choose an animal that has a lot of practical applications. For example, scientists may want to bring back a woolly mammoth because its thick fur could help humans survive in cold climates. They may also want to bring back a saber-toothed cat because its powerful jaws and sharp claws could be used to hunt down dangerous criminals. Of course, there's also the option to bring back something truly special like a dinosaur. But even if scientists decided to bring back a dinosaur, they'd need to decide which type of dinosaur to bring back. Should they go with a gentle herbivore like the Stegosaurus, or a fearsome carnivore like the Tyrannosaurus rex? The answer may depend on the goals of the scientists and also the public's opinion. After all, scientists would likely face a lot of opposition from people who do and want dangerous dinosaurs roaming around the earth once again. So if they do decide to bring a dinosaur back to life, it's probably going to be a herbivore. So with all that said, which dinosaur would be the easiest to clone? There are a few different contenders for this title, but one of the most likely candidates would be the Archaeopteryx. This was one of the first dinosaurs that ever existed, and it lived during the late Triassic period. This makes it relatively easy for scientists to find its fossils and study its DNA+. The Archaeopteryx is a relatively small creature, meaning that it wouldn't be too difficult to bring back to life. Another good candidate would be the Compsognathus. This was a very small carnivorous dinosaur that lived during the late Jurassic period. Again, it's relatively easy for scientists to find its fossils and study its DNA, and it's also a relatively small creature. Finally, there's the option of bringing back a Microraptor. This was a small feathered dinosaur that lived during the early Cretaceous period. It's another creature that's relatively easy for scientists to find its fossils and study its DNA, and it's also a relatively small creature. All three of these dinosaurs are relatively small, meaning that they wouldn't pose a threat to humans if they were brought back to life. They're also all very different from each other, so it'll be interesting to see how they evolved over time. Ultimately, the decision of which dinosaur to bring back to life will be a tough one. Each of these dinosaurs has its own unique set of advantages and disadvantages. But if I had to guess which one scientists would choose, I put my money on the Microraptor. It's a relatively small feathered dinosaur that lived during the early Cretaceous period. It's also one of the most popular dinosaurs among paleontologists, so there's a lot of support for bringing it back to life. But what if we wanted to bring back something a little bit more fearsome? What if we wanted to bring back a real monster? Well, there's always the option of bringing back a Tyrannosaurus rex. This is obviously a very dangerous dinosaur, so it would be a risky move to bring it back to life. However, it's also a very popular dinosaur, so there would be a lot of public support for bringing it back. The problem with the T-Rex is that it's very large, which means that it would be difficult to bring back to life. Plus, its DNA is very different from the DNA of modern creatures, so it would be challenging to find a suitable host for it to be cloned in. Despite these challenges, scientists have said that they think it would be possible to bring back a T-Rex if they really wanted to. However, they argue that it's not worth the risk. After all, there's no guarantee that a T-Rex will be able to survive in the modern world. Even if it did survive, it would be a danger to humans. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to bring back a T-Rex will be up to society as a whole. There will be a lot of ethical considerations to keep in mind, but it's certainly possible that we could do it if we really wanted to. With all that said, though, I think it is safe to say that we won't be seeing any dinosaurs roaming around anytime soon. Bringing an extinct animal back to life is a difficult process, and it is not something that should be done lightly. However, it's certainly possible that we could bring back some extinct animals in our lifetime. With advances in genetic engineering, who knows what the future may hold? Maybe one day we'll be able to bring back woolly mammoths or even dinosaurs. But for now, we just have to be content with knowing that they once roamed the earth. Now watch how do you clone a dinosaur, or check out this video instead.